Hello there. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on the part of the world you are listening to me from. And I welcome you to another edition of Bet Series Biologists Explain This. I still remain your biologist, your friend, your tutor, Peter Sabiodun. And in this very special edition, we'll be discussing issues surrounding addiction. And I titled it You Are Addicted. You hear me right? You heard me right. You are addicted. Again, I say it for the sake of emphasis. You are addicted. I'm sure what comes to your mind when you hear about addiction is the issue surrounding cocaine, heroin, amphetamines, marijuana, and the rest. But in this edition, we'll try to shed more light on the concept of addiction. And so I want you to sit down and flow with me in this particular edition because it's going to affect our health, our stability, our relationships, our state of mind, and how we enjoy life. And I'm sure you'll be glad you did watch this video at the end of it all. So come along with me and let's enjoy this edition together. And this video is a stimulation concerning to disabuse our minds, your minds, our minds concerning the issue of addiction. And so you can see the caption is very clear and simple and straightforward. It's talking about addiction, okay, health and lifestyle. And so we are discussing not drugs particularly, because what comes to the mind of an addict person out there on the street is that when addiction is mentioned, is in connection with illicit or illegal drugs, okay, like I mentioned earlier on. But this video is talking about lifestyle issues, health issues. So you've got alcohol, smoking, shopping, sex, and social networks, and gambling, and things like that. So in this video, we are transcending and going far beyond and above just drugs. And so let's look at what the content of this edition would be discussing. We'll be discussing what addiction is all about, and we'll be looking at why you got addicted. Yes, you got addicted. Okay, we are going to see that we all are addicted to something. Okay, and then we'll be discussing forms of addiction. We'll be discussing the consequences or the signs and symptoms of addiction. And then we'll be, of course, be discussing the basis of addiction and our happiness and they find an analysis. And so we're looking at the stats. Here we are discussing statistics and figures to set the ground rolling in this edition. Now, from databases, okay, published by the PubMed, okay, now there were studies conducted in 40 countries, okay, and that those countries covered more than 200,000 participants cutting across genders. Okay, the mean age was about 25 years old, 40 different countries, and you've got the study spanning from the pre-COVID-19 year to the post-19. Okay, so the post-COVID-19 was the range. So again, let me say this: the study began from the pre-COVID-19 year to the post. Okay, COVID-19. COVID-19 was 2020, and so we got the before and years after. So it's quite a length of time to make the study reliable, and you got the confidence interval to be 5.4, and so it's quite a reliable data. And still on the stats, we see that the prevalence rates for each separate kind of behavior. So we are discussing behavioral addiction, not drug addiction. So there are behaviors that can get us hooked and addicted. Okay, so if you look at it, look at the figures, okay, just be looking at the figures one and after the other, and then you begin to see that now look at the trajectory here, and that is in decreasing order. You will see that smartphone addiction is far the highest form of behavioral addiction, and is so that you won't confuse internet addiction with smartphone addiction. Okay, now the issue of addiction to the internet is a subset of smartphone addiction. And when you are carrying your phone everywhere, you feel so lost. If you forgot your smartphone, you have to watch video, you have to chat, you're always with your phone. That's an issue. But you are using the internet, it can be for academic purposes, religious reasons, for example. And so we're seeing that smartphone addiction is far the highest form of addiction. and of course you've got gaming, exercise, and shopping. So it's a wide range of forms of behavioral addiction. Still on the stats now, of course, the issues that people confronted and had to contend with in the lockdown period of COVID-19, where we couldn't move around and things like that, for those weeks and months, it was clear that people were just bored. Okay, so the boredom brought about the prevalence of food addiction, gaming. People just had to while away the time, I mean, pass the time having to engage your mind so that you won't run mad. Okay, so you got to do something to keep busy and to keep mentally active through the period. So it was clear that addiction, okay, was far higher during the COVID-19 period than before it. That's what the stats are showing here on this slide. Still on the issue of the stats, we are still on the issue of the stats. Okay, now we see the issue of the fact that a worrisome trend is that one form of addiction might be replaced with another form, or even pluralistic form now, other forms of addiction. Oftentimes, when people stop one addiction, they pick up another one. The new one may even be worse than the previous one. So, while trying to stop something else, you just pick up another one. So, you're trying to stop smoking, you turn to drinking and things like that. And so, you're not gaming, but you're indulging in poker and things like that. So, over time, it's been seen that people transit from one kind of form of addiction to another one. And so, the issue is this. Now, when you turn to addictive substance, now this is talking about any act or substance that gets somebody hooked. It's typical of what we call coping mechanism. There are things that people have to cope with. So change of job, loss of a loved one, and things like that, your relationship crashed or things like that. It's called a coping mechanism, and so people can turn to alcohol intake and things like that, begin to indulge in all kinds of drug intake, behavioral addiction, because you want to cope with the extant situation, which you find very unpleasant. And of course, the slide mirrors a couple of um, activities or acts or behaviors, apart from the one of drug addiction, the top right corner, that is common. You may not even think that fast food can be an addiction. There are people who are hooked on burgers, on all kinds of things that they eat. I mean, they just go to eat burgers, on the pies and things like that. Cigarette is common, the internet, and then your smartphone and shopping. Some people just can't stop shopping. Of course, you've got to have the words, the money to do that. Now, let's address the issue of addiction in a bit more detail. Addiction is defined as a disorder, okay, of the brain's reward system. That there's something called the reward system of the brain. Okay, the brain begins to enjoy some kinds of acts that you indulge in and begins to look forward to you doing it over and over again. So the addictive stimulus, okay, begins to tend to the issue of expectancy. The brain begins to look forward to you doing that thing over and over again. And so you want to eat over and over again. You have to have, you just, so your mind sets, your mind's eye, you're just smelling, oh, that burger, that vanilla, that strawberry, that's meat pie. It's an addiction. So eating food using cocaine. In other words, the brain begins to activate the reward system. So we will be looking at the reward system as we progress with this enlightening video. Now let's look at the issue of behavioral addiction closely. Now there's this issue of impulsiveness. And when you are impulsive, meaning you don't think, you don't give adequate thought, or you don't even think at all before you indulge in some things. And when it becomes habitual, you hardly can control it, because you are now becoming impulsive. And so the first thing to understand in behavioral addiction is that it's a kind of addiction where a person is afflicted. Okay, you are hooked. Okay, you have now become, now when you have a compulsion, it means that you are finding that lifestyle, that behavior irresistible. So a compulsion has to do with irresistible urge. to have to do it. So masturbation, for example, you woke up in the morning and the first thing you think of is having to smoke, having to sniff cocaine and things like that. And so on a repeated basis, it becomes something that the reward system begins to look forward to, because it has now become something that you can't do without. And so you see the issue of compulsion being emphasized there. And then compulsion comes from repeatedly indulging in that habit, that lifestyle, that act. The more you keep repeating it, remember, even the repetition is because you are now being controlled by the reward system of the brain. Now, still on the behavioral addiction, we come to the issue of the fact that the brain's reward system is being activated by chemical substances. Now, it's going to get to a point where chemical substances being released by the part of the brain called the limbic system they begin to control how you react, how you begin to perceive things, how you begin to long for a particular thing, a particular lifestyle or behavior, as it were. And so even if it's destructive, you are losing weight, you are losing funds, you are cash strapped and things like that, there's a reward system that goes with addiction. The brain system seems to be rewarding you in quotes, and that's why you just can't find the strength or the wherewithal to stop the habit or the lifestyle or the act. And then, still on behavioral addiction, we come to the issue of the fact that these activities that we're talking about that lead to the development of addiction, they range from things that we can think that they are harmless. They look seemingly harmless. I mean, I shop regularly, I just exercise. Just because of packs or abs or trying to develop some muscles, some individuals have become hooked to going to the gym. They just can't because they want to impress. I mean, it looks harmless. It's seemingly harmless, but it's a kind of addiction. So going to the gym is a kind of addiction because, I mean, sometimes you just don't like your shape in quotes. You think you're not looking nice, and so you want to have a particular kind of figure. You want to pattern your figure after a particular athlete or that celeb, okay, that celebrity, that actor or that actress. It becomes an obsession, so to say. So it's a kind of behavioral addiction, and so the reward circle begins to get activated and becomes dysfunctional, as it were. So you look at this slide on the screen, it's showing you that it's not a gender issue. On the left side of the screen, you've got the male, on the right side, you've got female. So addiction cuts across both genders. Now let's look at the role of a chemical substance which has been tagged the hormone that controls all our pleasure. I mean, the dopamine is, of course, there are four hormones that we're going to see later in this video. Four hormones that control our mood, our state of mind, so to say. But dopamine is the main hormone of the four. I mean, others reinforce, but dopamine has been found to cause an effect on our pleasure. So you can tag dopamine the pleasure hormone. And so what dopamine does is that when it is secreted, it activates the pleasure pathways. It just makes you to feel pleasure, and the pleasure you feel begins to want you to intensify that habit or that lifestyle or that drug intake. And then the problem is that it gets to a point where usually dopamine is a neurotransmitter. Okay, apart from stimulating pleasure, it's released at the ends of neurons. That's why you call it a neurotransmitter. If you go back to our video on transmission of electrical impulse, okay, under nervous stimuli that we discussed, the transmitting impulses cross from one neuron to the next neuron by means of molecules called neurotransmitters, and then one of those transmitters is dopamine. So dopamine is a neurotransmitter, and usually when transmitters are released, they are eventually hydrolyzed, meaning their effects, once their effects have been produced, you've got to hydrolyze and destroy those transmitter molecules at the junction, the synapse, where you release them. Otherwise, their effect will be sustained. So we explain these in our video on nervous coordination. Okay, so you can get the video from my YouTube channel. But the issue is this: dopamine is no longer being reabsorbed anymore. And so if dopamine has bound to its receptor on a particular neuron, it remains bound or attached to that neurotransmitter, and it's not hydrolyzed, and meaning its effect is sustained, meaning it becomes a problem. If you don't reabsorb dopamine, its effect is sustained, and that sustains the pleasure, which leads to addiction eventually. So let's look at some signs and symptoms of addiction. Now, since we are discussing behavioral addiction, it varies from person to person. There is the issue of epigenetics, there is the issue of your lifestyle, your resistance, and some other things. So what will affect one person may not affect the other one. You can give a glass of alcohol to somebody else, and the person begins to misbehave. Whereas you give a bottle or even a carton of beer or alcoholic drink to somebody else, and the person is not even affected at all. And so it varies, but in general terms, okay, when you look at the concept of behavioral addiction, the fact is that there's an increasing focus on a new habit or lifestyle at the expense of what the person is used to. Okay, the person used to come to the dining table to eat with everybody, used to spend time together in the living room with the family, spend time or hangs out with the guys and things like that. Suddenly, the person begins to imbibe a new kind of lifestyle. So there's a change in the lifestyle of that person. Okay, that friend begins to become a recluse, as it were. You just don't see him or her anymore. And so essentially, in addiction that we are discussing, the person withdraws for what the person seemed to be enjoying before, and there's a change in lifestyle. So the summary is this: there are still other symptoms we will discuss, but for the sake of this particular information here, there's a behavioral change, and that leads to a change in lifestyle or habit. And so when the person withdraws from what the person used to do before, the person has now adopted a different kind of lifestyle. Of course, that can lead to the person's relationship being destroyed, and your job performance can become affected because you are withdrawn from what people have known you to be like. Still on the symptoms and signs of behavioral addiction. Now, the issue is this: there is no way there won't be financial cost to behavioral change. I mean, you have to, if you are gaming, you want to spend money on betting, you want to spend money on poker, you want to eat more, you want to sustain the habit, you've got to spend money, and then all kinds of behavioral changes. And because of your mental ability, because your reward system has moved from, maybe you used to enjoy your job before, you used to do very well, you are a high flyer, you are a high performance employee. Suddenly your decision making is being affected. People begin to question your output, your performances are being affected. So, and then since there's a particular part of the brain that's been affected, the limbic system, you don't sleep well, and if you don't sleep well, you get to work, you start misbehaving, you are drowsy, you have slurred speeches, and then you are incoherent, as it were. In short, there's a behavioral dysfunction, so to say. And then sometimes when people accuse you, you become defensive because you become violent. So it's erratic, you become volatile because you want to defend what you are doing. Of course, you know you are guilty. Deep down, you feel guilty. Deep down, you feel, what the hell? But because it's not you, remember, you have lost control. That's the issue here. If the person is addicted, the person has lost control because the reward system wants to keep rewarding you, and so you want to sustain the pleasurable effect that you are feeling. So we've talked about being volatile and erratic because you become suddenly unpredictable. Still on symptoms and signs of behavioral addiction. Now, you begin to hide. Okay, you don't want people to see, you don't want people to complain anymore, so you become deceitful. You have to lie and replace one lie with another kind of lie. Even when people suggest that you need help, you attack people who comment about your performances, the way you look, because you may even look unkempt. You may not even have time for yourself anymore because you don't care. You just want to just keep doing what you are doing because you are feeling good. So it's just a disorientation, it is a dysfunction of your mentality. You just can't control yourself anymore. You've just lost it. And so you become deceitful because you want to hide what you are doing because you feel people will complain, and to you they should just mind their businesses. So let's have a closer look at what we've been talking about, the reward sensitization. What does it mean? Now, when you are discussing the reward sensitization, it's just a process where there's an increase in the amount of reward. You call it incentive salience, okay? Salience means to be satisfied. So you are being satisfied with incentives. And so there's an assignment. So you assign, the brain is assigning reward to the act you are now indulging in. So sex, masturbation, social media, surfing, drug intake, and drug addiction, and things like that. You just feel satisfied. There's a feeling of, wow, I'm enjoying life. I'm on the top of the world. You just keep feeling cool. You feel high, so to say. And then, because of this reward sensitization, you crave for more. You desire more of that drug, that lifestyle, that habit, that act, because you see the triggers, you see the cues, okay? Sometimes when you just see a corner, you want to just rush in and masturbate. Sometimes because you're addicted to sex now, any lady that goes around, oh wow, once look at this babe, look at this figure, because so the cues and the triggers. So everywhere you turn to now, you begin to see the cues. The cues are triggers. So triggers that will reward you. So wow, you just want to be with that guy, you want to be with that babe. So the triggers are everywhere. Suddenly you begin to see the cues more often than previously because you are being rewarded by the reward system. That's what we refer to as reward. So something that begins to alert you about those acts. Everywhere you turn to, you become more aware of the cues, the triggers to make you to want to indulge and continue with that lifestyle that you have just begun to indulge in and find pleasure in. So, and then the question is, or the fact is that there's a chronicle high level of exposure to the stimulus. Suddenly, everywhere you turn to, you begin to see the stimuli everywhere, and so it becomes high. So it becomes uncontrollable. What others don't see, you see. You just see opportunity to do it, to just continue. The opportunities seem to be everywhere now, and though you just don't care any longer. And so you call this cue-induced wanting, cue-triggered wanting, because the signals suddenly come alive to you everywhere you find yourself. And naturally, humans, we are wired biologically to seek rewards. I mean, just imagine you had a very good score in your examination, you are doing well as a sales manager, and your boss is promoting you, got you a nice good car, you got a ride, and then you got a raise, okay? Your salary, your take home has been increased. I mean, when you are rewarded, you want to perform more, you want to impress more. That is the same thing that happens in the reward system. So when you are getting rewarded, you want to do it more, to get more reward and do it more, and then a cycle develops. A cycle of reward system develops, and that is the problem now. The cycle of rewards. We want to look at the cycle of reward that becomes damaging, that becomes destructive to the person's mentality and the person's consciousness. It becomes damaging. So let's look at the cycle now. Very pathetic. Now, dopamine shows up again, that pleasure hormone. Suddenly, you've got an unwanted drive to seek more of the pleasure. With time, there's a change in your brain chemistry. Your brain is no longer sensitive to that small amount of dopamine that used to, just like when you imagine you used to use 2 tablets of a drug before a medication, and suddenly your body, 2 tablets aren't enough anymore. You've got to take 4, you've got to take 6 or 10. That's the problem here now. The dosage of dopamine that you used to enjoy before suddenly is no longer enough. And so you want to up that stimulus, you want to increase that act, you want to do it more, because the frequency of indulgence in that habit is what is going to compensate for the low level of dopamine. And so you become insensitive to that low dose. And then what you do now, as you increase the frequency of the habit or the lifestyle, suddenly dopamine release also increases. So the brain chemistry begins to experience an imbalance, so to say. And so we are looking at the addictive cycle. Remember, there's a destabilization of the chemistry in the brain of the addict. And so, because the reward system has been tampered with. So there are two systems that control addiction. As we are discussing the vicious cycle, the dangerous cycle of addiction, there are two systems. You have the reward system and you've got the stress system. Now the reward system provides pleasure. Like you have been saying over and over again, it makes you feel good. You keep enjoying it. You long for it every time. At every instance and place and opportunity, you just want to do it. Okay, and then you've got the stress system. The stress system is responsible for feeling for making you feel threatened. You just feel down. You don't feel good about yourself. You are, oh, I'm not fine, I'm not beautiful, people don't like me, people gossip about me, my nose is long, my earlobes are large. You begin to feel that discouragement. So the vibes from the stress system is to make you feel down, and the reward system is making you feel high. So there's an antagonism going on here between the two systems. Remember, your cycle of addiction is premised or based on these two systems and the interplay between them. And so when these two systems are activated, they constitute what we refer to as an addictive cycle. Still on that cycle, in this addictive cycle that we are discussing, dopamine release, okay, is there. Dopamine is released by the cycle. So the reward system releases dopamine that you feel pleasure, while stress system releases cortisol. You can Google cortisol, so you keep feeling bad about yourself. So you have a problem. So you are being pulled in one direction by dopamine. You are being pulled in the opposite direction by cortisol. And so when you combine this, you begin to feel a powerful urge because you want to compensate for feeling down. So you want to feel pleasure. So you know not to feel down, to forget your sorrow, so to say, to forget that bad habit, that crime you committed, you want to do more. And that increases dopamine release from the brain. And that release of dopamine increases the pleasure, and definitely addiction cycle is activated. Still on the reward system. Now, when you overstimulate the reward systems, the brain eventually gets addicted to wanting to expect the pleasure that you have exposed to, okay, expose it to, and you have made it to become addicted to. Okay, so in addiction, there's a reinforcement of the reward system. The behaviors that reward you in quotes, making you to feel good, you want to continue to sustain those behaviors or those acts. And so the main feature, the main characteristic of addiction is that there's a loss of control. Loss over what? Over the extent to which you should indulge in that act or that habit. How often, where, when, how, with whom. Okay, and the reward cycles again. Okay, reward cycle. Now there's a part of the brain I referred to earlier on called the limbic system. This system is important in controlling the pathway in the brain. Of course, you may not bother so much about the biology, but just know that name. The limbic system is important in the control of the reward cycle that leads to addiction. And so the pleasure that you feel is a motivation to want to repeat it, because you don't want to feel down, you want to feel high, you want to feel in control, you want to make people to believe that this is it. So you've created an image. Sometimes some guys need to take a particular drug to be bold, to go and toast a babe. You just want to be bold and courageous to go and approach a girl to talk to her. Everybody has been talking, and you feel, wow, everybody has, all your guys have their own babes. When am I going to have mine? So to be bold and courageous, you take drugs sometimes. You just, I babe, what's up with you now? What's up, my man? So, you just want to be bold. Things that naturally you wouldn't have been able to do. You suddenly become confident, and you don't want to lose that confidence that that lady has known you with. And so the brain becomes accustomed to, because it has learned how to anticipate or to expect you to bring that feeling. And so the dopamine production definitely increases, and that begins to reinforce the feeling of the reward that you have introduced the brain to, and the brain has suddenly become accustomed to. And so the brain has learned to, and so there's an expectation that goes with it. If you don't indulge in that act or behavior, you feel bad. I mean, you just feel down. Your friends can be asking you why. Why? It's because sometimes you are not able to go into your to escape, so to say, from the prying eye of your friends and people around. So you just want to be on your own. So sometimes you are not able to escape, suddenly indulge in that act. Sometimes a brief period, 2, 3 minutes, 5 minutes, just escape and indulge in it, and the dopamine is fired into your brain, and you feel excited and you're smiling again. So sometimes you have brief spell of mood swing. You're just feeling down. Why? It's because you have not been able to escape into your secret zone to indulge in that act and fire the brain up with dopamine again. This is the biology, okay, the biochemistry of it. You don't have to worry if you are not in biology. Just know that there's a VTA, the ventral tegmental area, of course, together with the NA also. These parts are involved. So there's a part of the. So all we are trying to say is that when it gets to this level, you have lost control because the brain is not the one in charge. Once the brain is in charge, it begins to suppress your consciousness. You are no longer in control. So now, I mean, we won't go into the details of the brain pathways, but it's becoming an issue of the brain is not in charge and you have lost the control. You are not compulsive because there is now the issue of the urge, the irresistible urge to want to with increase in frequency. So this diagram is just to show us the path of the brain, so you can study it later when you find it convenient. I said the pathways. If you're a biologist or neurologist, this will be easy for you to just understand the pathway. You can see the arrows showing how it begins to spread from the center. Okay, so there's a worrisome aspect of addiction that we want to discuss. So if you're a parent here, you are a counselor, you are a guardian, or you are a youth yourself, or you are an addict, this may interest you because there's the youths generally, okay, you can go and Google and look at what is the age range of youthfulness. If you are a youth, maybe you are under 25, for example, okay, that's just what I want to, so I'll use that range now to describe what a youth is. It can be more than that, but let's say you are under 25 years. Now there's increased vulnerability, okay, for addiction to be developed in a youthful person than an adult, okay. If you are middle age or you are an aged person, it's more difficult. Everybody can be addicted at any age, but there's an increased vulnerability. Youths are more susceptible, particularly adolescents. When you attain puberty, you have not identified who you are, and so because of that identity crisis, you want to be like your friends and you want to copy this, copy that, you want to be like Ronaldo or Messi or somebody else, those kind of things. There's a loss of or a lack of identity, and so adolescents have this thing you refer to as the incentive reward systems. Unfortunately, the reward system overshadows or suppresses or develops before the cognitive control center. So the concept here is this: when you're growing up, you've got the incentive reward system, you've got the cognitive control center. Now, the cognitive issue has to do with them learning, understanding, perception, thoughts pattern. And so, how you learn, how you perceive things, how your thought pattern, how you visualize, and how you conceptualize things. That is what you have encompassed in the issue of cognition. But unfortunately, for an adolescent that's just trying to attain self realization, okay, the incentive reward system matures faster before your cognitive control system. So it becomes as an issue because an adolescent would have done something more before even acting. Let me say it again. A parent or a guardian or a tutor should not be surprised when you say that you are not thinking. Don't blame that child. That adolescent individual just can't think more than what he or she is doing at that stage because the reward system is going faster than the cognitive control center. Is that the person matures, the person begins to regret. I read a story just some days ago about what's her name now? This lady that sang Umbrella, that's very popular. Okay, was saying that now that she's a mother, that she regretted that she did some things when she was growing in the music industry. He said, looking at it now, even sometimes exposing her nipples, for example, for camera, just for the sake of popularity, things that she did when she thought she was popular, when she was feeling cool. The cameras were everywhere, the red carpet, okay, all those reward systems in quotes, the image that the press system, the media put her in, the mold that she was shaped to be like, the image she was portraying as a star and things like that, sexy sex symbol and things like that. Now, having grown older, she's looking at, wow, so you mean I did those things? Now she's saying that as a mother now she regretted those things. So that's what happens when you're an adolescent, you're growing. You can say you lack enough common sense. Let me put it this way. I'm not being abusive, but you just can't think more than that. So because you are just looking for rewards. But as you grow older now, you stop impressing people and then you begin to build your own confidence and your own identity. And so the reward systems now has a disproportionate. When you say something is disproportionate, meaning there's an inequality, meaning there's no balance at all between this cognition and then this incentive issue here now. So adolescents generally, therefore, they are more increasingly likely to act on impulse. I've already talked about being impulsive, acting without being thoughtful. So when you see your child, if you're a parent or you're a guardian, you're a tutor, when you see that person under you that's an adolescent, don't blame him or her. Just try to help. Try to look at that person, look at, and just try to counsel and help that person to grow through that stage, because this stage is the most important stage of a child. If you don't help that adolescent, if that child becomes hooked on a lifestyle, it's going to be difficult, because one worrisome thing is that adolescents are more likely to be resistant to drug use. I mean, when they get addicted, treatment becomes more. They are more resistant to treatment. It's so difficult to treat an adolescent. I mean, it's easier to manage a child than to deal with the adult. The adult that that child has become eventually is more difficult. So it's a lot easier to manage that child. So please, everybody watching this video, every child that's around you, whether it's your own child, your neighbor's child, or anybody else, don't just turn your eyes away. Try to help that child through that stage, because if that child becomes an adult, a man or woman is becoming a threat to the society. It becomes a problem to the family, an image issue to the parents. So because it is not that child, it's a thing that everybody has got to go through. If an adult like me listening to this video, you can look back to when you were younger and begin to ask yourself, wow, because as you are listening and try to look at when you were in high school or maybe your early days in the university, what kinds of things you did, the kind of exploits, the escapades, and you're wondering, so I mean, what the hell? You mean I jumped fence? You mean I did those things? Yes, you did. That's why we are saying that you listening to me, you are addicted to something. Thank God if you're through with it, if you're mature now, thank God you survived the addiction. And so we turn our attention to the concept of happiness as we begin to wind down. Okay, now what is happiness itself? Let's look at some factors that can make somebody happy, because at the center of addiction is the issue of the way people feel about themselves. Okay, well, like I said, when people change jobs and something goes wrong, the way you think about yourself suddenly changes. Okay, so there are a couple of things there. Okay, things that you've got to do to be happy. Just do things. So look at the list on the screen and just look at this video. You can play it over and over again and just look at how can I have a positive attitude about myself, about life and things like that. Even when things go wrong, I can still bounce back and recover. And so let's look at the four hormones that make us feel good, because we want to talk about happiness. We can't close this video without talking about the concept of happiness. So let's look at what nature has given us to make us to be happy. So the acronym DOSE will help us to remember: dopamine, oxytocin, serotonin, and endorphins. And so quickly, let's look at these hormones. Now we talk about dopamine over and over again, so we won't say much. It makes you happy, pleasure, reward, and learning and things like that. So dopamine. So how to increase dopamine? Be generous. Okay. Then oxytocin is called the bonding hormone, the love hormone. If you spend time with somebody more often, you begin to bond with that person. That's why sometimes you fall in love with somebody else that you didn't think you could fall in love with. Begin to like somebody else that you never thought you could like before. Because oxytocin is being released. The more time you spend with somebody, the more you are releasing and intensifying oxytocin's effect. Of course, toxin is required for childbirth, what you call parturition. So if you look at our video on sexuality and or sexual reproduction and everything to do with reproduction, you will see what we talked about under oxytocin. Oxytocin is required for delivery. Oxytocin level increases when the woman is about to go into labor, and it helps to contract the myometrium of the uterus so that the muscular layer helps to push out the baby to make labor to succeed eventually. So the issue is that oxytocin is bonding hormone. So watch how you spend time with somebody. If you're not careful, you're going to fall in love with that person. That's a warning, but that's a friendly advice. I can guarantee you that. And so to increase oxytocin level, just feel good, be happy, smile. So the more you smile, you begin to bond. I mean, some people are reclusive. So even the so-called people who don't talk, okay, introverts, if introverts spend more time with people, they begin to bond. The more you bond, the more you begin to open up to people. That's why sometimes you begin to wonder that you told some people things that you wouldn't have told them before. Why? Because you are bonding under the effect of oxytocin. And so you can see people laughing, bonding. The more you party, the more you bond. Like I said, the more you spend time with people, you have got to bond because the level of oxytocin has increased. And of course, we come to the third happy hormone, serotonin. Serotonin regulates mood, okay? If you're feeling down, watch it, okay? If you want to just so do something else that will increase serotonin level. Serotonin, if you do good, if you did good, okay, you're generous and stuff like that, spend time outdoor, play games, do things like that, serotonin will be released and your mood will change. So you're always feeling down, try to change your mood. How do you change your mood? Get out of there. Get your butt out of that place. Play that game. Watch that movie. Do something else. Go to the theater. Go to the pub. Do stuff like that. Just don't do something criminal, but change the mood. If you changed your mood, serotonin level increases and it makes you happier as time goes on. And lastly, for our sake, to be happy, remember at the center of addiction is the concept of not being happy with yourself. Endorphins is a painkiller, relieving hormone. You can see that nature has helped us to be able to live a life of being happy. Of course, you will not be happy all the time, but we can try to do stuff, activities or behaviors that will increase this hormone level in our body. And so endorphins, when the level of endorphins increases, okay, when the levels increase, what does the level do? Okay, endorphin levels will help us to do what? To just help us to cope, okay, with stress, okay? So it relieves pain, lost loved one, loss of a job, and maybe loss of health. Okay, maybe there's a diagnosis, you are not feeling fine anymore, and things like that, and you're wondering you're going to have to spend weeks or months on the bed. You have got to take some medications. You don't like the smell, the color, and things like that. If you begin to psych yourself up and begin to feel good, okay, endorphins levels will increase, and with increasing levels of endorphin, you begin to feel good, okay? The pain, the agony, the discomfort that is associated with that diagnosis, without state of mind, can begin to change for the better. So the idea is work on increasing your endorphin levels by spending time outdoors, exercise, meditate, think good about yourself, think of what will happen if you didn't die. Okay, that's why doctors will tell you that when the person is diagnosed with a disease or a disorder, if the person has something to live for, if you diagnose two persons with the same condition, if the person who has a positive outlook, who has something to live for, usually those people recover with time because they keep saying, no, I cannot die. I mean, I've got a family, I've got a job, I've got that girlfriend, I've got that guy looking out for me. When you have something to live for, endorphin level increases. So the pain, while you are going through that pain, that surgery, that discomfort, that phase, that state of life, with levels of endorphin increasing, you begin to feel good, and recovery starts from within because the pain is being relieved. So there's this issue of natural healing hidden the drugs that you are taking. So begin to do some things, okay, that will make you feel good. Your mood can be your mood level can become better with endorphin level. So for some people, is to work out, just do something that's exciting. Some people with sex, increase in sexual activities with somebody else makes them more happier. Just do something, laugh more. Like I said, endorphins will help us to relieve pain, agony. Sufferings can be moderated with endorphins. And so the summary is on this slide. So look at the summary of the hormones that nature has given us to help us, from serotonin to dopamine. So serotonin is the mood stabilizer. The dopamine is the reward chemical that helps us to be happy. Oxytocin makes you to bond with that person and begin to love him or her. You can bond with your job and things like that. You can love the area you live. You can love the job, the things you do. Endorphin is the painkiller. And And as I round off, I hope you enjoy this video. I'm sorry I didn't want to make it as long as this, but I didn't want to make it in two parts. Okay, I will have treated happiness separately, but I wanted you to just put them together. At the center of addiction is the lack of self-worth. Okay, when you're down, you don't feel good about yourself, you begin to feel negative, meaning you are not happy, you're not pleased with yourself anymore. And so that's why I have to incorporate the little things about happiness in this video. And so if you enjoy this video, please like, share, comment, and please, we want to hear your comments. Your comments encourage us. What do we need to change? What do we need to modify or moderate? If you want us to talk about something else, send us topics that you want us to treat. We'll be glad to oblige you so that more people can learn. And then you can send your comments to WhatsApp, to email, Instagram handle, and YouTube. I'll be very willing to hear from you. Remember, we are friends together. We want to help ourselves to enjoy life together. Alleviate our sufferings, make life better. Let's help ourselves. If you have been blessed and you have been informed by this video, please share with those who are close to you so that happiness can be shared and more people can come out of gloom and despondency and we can enjoy life together. So gracias, thank you for listening and see you in our next video. To your success, bye.